What if I told you that right now, in real time, millions of women who spent the last 30 years telling men to get lost are suddenly, desperately begging those same men to come riding back in like knights on white horses to save them from the monster they created? And what if I told you that the smartest, calmest, most peaceful men in the world have already looked at that plea, laughed under their breath, turned the volume all the way down, and kept walking away forever? Stick with me to the very end of this one, because by the time we're done today, you're going to see exactly why this moment we're living through is the biggest red pill reckoning in modern history, and why the chapter that comes next is going to be written entirely by men who finally learned how to put themselves first. If you're new here or you've been riding with me for a while, do me a solid right now. Smash that like button, share this video with every man you know who needs to hear this truth bomb, and hit subscribe so you never miss another dose of raw, uncut, angry guy reality. And if you want to go from crypto curious to crypto confident, if you want to learn how to actually buy, sell, trade, and most importantly, protect your assets in this wild digital frontier, head down to the description right now and click the link to Angry's Crypto Academy. We've got step-by-step courses that take you from zero to stacking sats like a pro. Enroll today. Your future wallet will thank you. And if these videos are hitting you right in the chest, if they're waking you up or keeping you sharp, show some love and buy your boy a Red Bull. Link is in the description. Keeps the rage fueled and the content coming. All right, let's dive in. And picture this. It's 2014, the height of third wave feminism. Hashtags are flying. Articles everywhere are telling men to do better, be better, check your privilege, believe all women, teach men not to assault. Every week there's a new viral post about how men are the problem. Mansplaining, manspreading, toxic masculinity. The future is female. Men are obsolete. Remember that. Remember the energy in the air? It felt like the entire culture had decided that masculinity itself was a disease that needed to be cured. And what did men do? A lot of them tried to play along. They apologized for existing. They shaved their beards, lowered their voices, started saying, in my opinion, before every sentence, like they were walking on eggshells in their own lives. They let themselves get pushed out of education, out of media, out of corporate ladders, out of dating apps, out of their own friend groups. They were told, we don't need you, we can do it all ourselves. And you know what? A whole lot of men heard that loud and clear. Fast forward a few years, and something quiet started happening. Men stopped arguing. They stopped apologizing. They stopped trying to prove they weren't the villain in someone else's story. They just left. Not with screaming, not with drama. They left the way a man leaves a burning building, calmly, quickly, and without looking back for the photo album. They went to the gym. They built businesses. They learned skills. They stacked money. They traveled. They played video games. They found peace in the woods, on motorcycles, in garages, in silence. They discovered something the culture never wanted them to find. Life is actually pretty damn good when you're not constantly being told you're the problem. We called it men going their own way, then men walking away. MWA. And for the first time in decades, millions of men tasted something they hadn't felt since childhood. Peace. Real peace. No drama, no accusations, no walking on eggshells, just the sound of their own thoughts, the weight of iron in their hands, the satisfaction of a bank account that grows because nobody's bleeding it dry with demands and expectations. And for a long time, nobody noticed. Women were busy celebrating. We did it. We're independent. We have careers. We have OnlyFans. We have government programs. We have everything we were told we wanted. The parties were loud. The slogans were everywhere. A woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle. Remember that one? They tattooed it on their bodies. They put it on coffee mugs. They laughed about it at brunch while the check was quietly getting picked up by taxes paid mostly by men, infrastructure built by men, systems protected by men. But nobody was supposed to point that out. That would be misogyny. Then 2020 hit. Markets wobbled, inflation started creeping, jobs got shaky, the money printer went brr for a while, but even that has limits. Rents doubled in some cities. Dating apps turned into digital slot machines that only paid out for the top 5% of men. Birth rates started collapsing. Marriage rates tanked harder than crypto in a bear market. And slowly, quietly, women started looking around and asking a question nobody thought they'd ever have to ask again. Where did all the good men go? At first, it was subtle. A TikTok here, an article there. Men have checked out. Men aren't approaching anymore. Why won't men commit? Then it got louder. Chivalry is dead and women killed it. Men are refusing to date modern women. And then finally, the mask came all the way off. You started seeing videos, long emotional videos, sometimes with tears, where women would say things like, I think we took feminism too far. We were sold a lie. Feminism was good for our grandmothers, but we don't need it anymore. Can men please come back? We'll be traditional if that's what you want. I'm willing to submit. I just want a good man to protect me and provide for me. And every single time one of those videos dropped, the comment section filled with the calmest, coldest, most unified response the internet has ever seen. No, too late. We're good. Enjoy the equality you demanded. Because here's the part nobody wants to say out loud, but everybody already knows in their gut. Those women aren't sorry. They're scared. They're not rejecting feminism because they had some grand moral awakening. They're rejecting the label because, the bill just came due and the credit card is maxed out. They still want everything feminism gave them. They still want no fault divorce laws that let them walk away with half plus child support plus alimony. They still want affirmative action in universities and corporate jobs. They still want the government programs that transfer wealth from male taxpayers to single mothers. They still want to be able to cry harassment the second a man they don't find attractive looks at them for half a second too long. They still want all of it. The only thing they're willing to give up is the word soft feminism towards itself. Because right now that word is starting to feel like a brand that's bad for business. It's like watching Blockbuster announce in 2025 that they're rebranding because nobody rents VHS tapes anymore. The game is over. The customers already left. And now they want us to come back and save the store we never wanted to shop at in the first place. And let me tell you a quick story to make this crystal clear. I know a guy, let's call him Mark. Good dude. Mid-40s now. Back in the early 2000s, he was the definition of what we used to call a high-value man. 6 figures, six-pack, 6 feet tall, owned his own house, no debt, funny, kind. The whole package. Got married at 28 to his college sweetheart. Thought he was building the dream. 10 years in, she decides she's not happy. Files for divorce, takes the house, takes the kids, takes 60% of his income between child support and alimony. Mark moves into a 1-bedroom apartment and starts grinding again. Pays every penny on time because if he misses one, jail. Builds himself back up, gets in the best shape of his life, starts a business. By 2022, he's making more money than ever, debt-free again, traveling the world, absolutely loving life. Last year, his ex reaches out. Guess what she says? I made a mistake. The kids miss you. I miss you. I was brainwashed by feminism. I see that now. Can we try again? Mark's response was one sentence. I'm happier now than I ever was with you. Please lose my number. And that, gentlemen, is the template. That is the blueprint. That is what's happening in a million quiet conversations all over the Western world right now because men have finally done the math, and the math is brutal. When you add up the risks, false accusations, financial ruin and divorce, paternity fraud, the dating marketplace being rigged worse than a casino, social media turning every disagreement into a public execution. And then you compare that to the rewards. Maybe if you're lucky, you get a partner who loves you conditionally, as long as you keep performing and never get sick, never get laid off, never have a bad year. When you do that math cold with no emotion, the decision is easy. Hey guys, in a world pushing you to own nothing and be happy, crypto is your key to survival. Join Angry's Crypto Academy to master buying, selling, and trading crypto. Make huge profits and safeguard your wealth. Plus, discover the one crypto virtually no one is talking about, poised to create new millionaires in the upcoming bull run. The link is in the description of the video below. Go check it out now. Peace is cheaper than marriage. Freedom is cheaper than cohabitation. Solitude is cheaper than drama. A gym membership plus a passport is cheaper than a wedding ring and alimony. And once a man tastes that freedom, once he realizes he can wake up every single day and the only person he has to answer to is the man in the mirror, something changes forever. You can't unring that bell. You can't unsee that peace. So now women are doing the only thing they have left. They're trying to shame men back into the plantation. They're calling men immature for not wanting to commit. They're saying men who walk away have Peter Pan syndrome. They're writing think pieces about how men need to step up and take responsibility during these hard times. Translation: come back and fix the mess we made while we keep all the advantages we took. But here's what they're slowly realizing, and it's terrifying them. The men who walked away aren't coming back. Not now. Not ever. Those men have built new lives. They have routines that make them happy. They have money in the bank that isn't earmarked for someone else's lifestyle. They have friendship circles that don't include passive aggressive comments and drama. They have peace. And peace, once you've had the real thing, is non negotiable. I've said it before, and I'll say it until I'm blue in the face. All roads lead to MWA. Men walking away isn't a phase. It isn't a trend. It isn't a coping mechanism. It is the final stage of male awakening in this civilizational cycle. And once a critical mass of men reach that stage, the game changes forever. So when you see these videos of women crying on TikTok saying, "Where are all the real men?" Understand what you're really watching. You're watching the exact moment a gambler realizes the house always wins, except in this case, the house is reality. And the men finally figured out how to stop playing a rigged game. And now the panic is spreading like wildfire. You can feel it in the air, even if most people won't say it out loud yet. The smart ones, the ones who still have a little bit of honesty left in them, are starting to whisper it in private group chats and closed door conversations. We might have actually broken something that can't be fixed. And they're right. They did. But the difference now is that the men who could have fixed it have zero interest in doing the repairs for free. Let me paint another picture for you. Imagine a man who spent 15 years building a beautiful house. He laid every brick himself. He paid for every piece of lumber. He worked overtime, skipped vacations, sacrificed sleep. Also, he could hand the keys to someone and say, "Here, this is for us." And then one day, the person he built it for sets the house on fire, dances in the flames, posts videos laughing about how she doesn't need his stupid house anyway, and then runs off to go find herself while the insurance check paid for by his premiums lands in her bank account. 10 years later, the fire's finally out. The lot is nothing but charred earth and rubble. And that same person shows up at his new door with soot still on her face and says, "Hey, remember how you used to be really good at building houses? Could you maybe build me another one real quick? I'm cold." What do you think that man does? Does he grab his tool belt and say, "Of course, babe, anything for you"? Or does he close the door, turn the deadbolt, and go back to watching the game in a living room that no one is ever allowed to burn down again? That's where we are right now. That's the emotional temperature of millions of men who have already been through the fire once and have zero intention of walking back into the smoke. And the craziest part, women are genuinely shocked that the answer is no. They spent years being told that men are simple creatures driven by one thing, that all you have to do is snap your fingers and we'll come running like dogs to a whistle. They actually believe their own propaganda. So when the whistle gets blown now and nobody shows up, the confusion is real. You can see it on their faces in those viral clips. The eyebrows go up, the head tilts. Wait, this isn't how the script was supposed to go. I want you to think about every single time in the last 10 years you heard a woman say, I don't need a man. Not in a humble, I'm capable on my own way. I mean the triumphant, chest pounding, middle finger to the sky version. The version that got a million likes and fire emojis. The version that ended with men are trash or I can do everything a man can do, but backwards and in heels. Now, watch what happens when the heat gets turned off in February and the plumber who fixes the boiler is suddenly making $500 an hour because there aren't enough of him to go around. Watch what happens when the truck that delivers food doesn't show up because the driver decided he'd rather be fishing. Watch what happens when the power grid flickers because the men who used to work 80-hour weeks to keep it running looked at their paychecks, looked at their Tinder matches, looked at the divorce statistics, and said, yeah, I think I'll take a gap year. Suddenly, I don't need a man turns into, okay, but like, can someone come fix this real quick? And that's not hyperbole. We're already seeing the early stages. Look at the trades: electricians, plumbers, welders, diesel mechanics. Fields that are 98% male are now facing shortages so severe that companies are offering six-figure signing bonuses and still can't fill seats. Why? Because the same kid who was told in high school that college was the only path to success and that learning a trade was for losers is now 35, $200,000 in debt with a gender studies degree, living in his mom's basement, and realizing that the plumber he used to look down on is pulling up to jobs in a $90,000 truck paid cash. That plumber isn't mad. He's not bitter. He's just busy. And when some influencer with blue hair and pronouns in bio posts a tearful video about how her heat went out and no one will come fix it for less than $2,000, that plumber isn't rushing over to save the day. He's on a lake somewhere with his phone on airplane mode, drinking a beer he paid for with money he earned doing something the world actually needs. That's the new reality. Competence now comes with a price tag, and the men who have it have finally learned to charge what they're worth. But it's deeper than just trades, it's every layer of society. The men who used to volunteer at the fire department on weekends, a lot of them stopped. The men who used to coach Little League, gone. The men who used to stay late to mentor the new guy at work, they clock out at 4:59 now. The men who used to jump in and help a stranger change a tire on the side of the road, they keep driving because the last time they did that, they got accused of being creepy for offering help to a woman who didn't ask for it. We were told explicitly and repeatedly that our help wasn't wanted, that our presence was oppressive, that our instincts were toxic. So we took you at your word. We left. And now that the predictable consequences are rolling in like a slow motion tsunami, the same voices who told us to leave are screaming, wait, come back. We didn't mean it. Except you did mean it. You meant it when it was fun. You meant it when it got you likes. You meant it when it made you feel powerful. The only thing you didn't mean was the part where there would be a cost. But let me tell you about another friend of mine. We'll call him Chris. Chris is 42 now. Former Marine, built like a brick house, owns a successful construction company, never married, no kids, lives in a paid off cabin on 10 acres with his dog and a garage full of motorcycles, makes more money in a month than most men make in a year, dates when he feels like it, never more than a few months at a time, zero drama, zero chaos. Last month, an ex from 15 years ago found him on social media. She's a single mom now, two kids from two different guys, works a corporate job she hates, sent him a long message about how she finally understands what she lost, how feminism lied to her, how she's ready to be the woman he always wanted, how she'll cook and clean and never complain if he'll just give her one more chance. Chris screenshotted it, sent it to our group chat with 3 laughing emojis, and then blocked her. That night, he was on a plane to Thailand for a month-long jujitsu camp. Didn't think about her again. That's the energy now. That's the standard. And it's not cruelty. It's not revenge. It's just self-respect with compound interest. Because here's the secret nobody wants to say out loud. Men aren't refusing to help because we're hurt. We're refusing because we're finally free. And freedom, once you've tasted the pure version, is the most addictive substance known to man. You can't bribe a free man with duty. You can't guilt a free man with shame. You can't lure a free man back into chains with promises of sex or homemade lasagna. Once a man has felt the wind on his face with no one telling him which direction to walk, the idea of putting the leash back on voluntarily is laughable. It's not even a conversation. So when women make these videos now, the ones where they say, I'll be traditional, I promise, just please choose me, what they're really revealing is that they still think this is a negotiation. They still think everything is transactional. They're offering to trade submission for provision, but only because the provision from the state is drying up. It's not a change of heart, it's a change of circumstances. And men can smell that from a mile away now. We've all seen the same movie before. We know exactly how it ends. The second the good times come back, the trad costume comes off, the ring goes back on the left hand as a weapon, and we're right back to square one. No, thank you. Been there, done that, bought the t shirt, burned it. The truth is, the men who walked away aren't hiding. We're not lost. We're not broken. We're not figuring ourselves out. We're living the best versions of our lives quietly, happily, and completely outside of the system that spent decades trying to shame us into servitude. We're in the gym at 5 a.m. while the world sleeps. We're on motorcycles crossing state lines with no destination. We're in garages building things with our hands that no one will ever take from us. We're on fishing boats at dawn with friends who don't need anything from us except good company. We're stacking crypto, lifting weights, reading books, learning languages, and sleeping 8 hours a night without anyone blowing up our phone with drama. And every day, more men wake up, look around, and decide they want that too. Not because we hate women, not because we're lonely, but because we finally realized that peace isn't the absence of war, it's the presence of boundaries. And the strongest boundary a man can draw is the one that starts with my time, my money, my energy, my life. Those belong to me now. And so when the pleas come and they're getting louder every month, the answer isn't anger, it isn't gloating, it's just a calm, clear, final no. No, I won't fix what you broke. No, I won't save you from the consequences you celebrated. No, I won't come back and rebuild a system that spent my entire adult life telling me I was the problem. I'm busy building something new, something that doesn't need your permission, your approval, or your participation. And the guest list is men only. That's where we're at right now. And that's only the beginning. And now the cracks are starting to show in places most people never thought they'd see them. We're not just talking about lonely apartments and empty dating apps anymore. We're talking about entire systems that were quietly held together by male sacrifice, suddenly groaning under their own weight. The silence is getting loud. Let me take you to a small town in the Midwest. Real place. I won't name it, but you've driven through 100 just like it. Volunteer fire department, 25 guys who used to drop everything when the siren went off. Farmers, mechanics, a couple teachers, one cop, all married or had been married, all showed up at 3 a.m. in February to pull someone's grandma out of a burning house. Never asked for a dime, never asked for glory, just did it because that's what men do. Or did. Over the last 5 years, 18 of those 25 quietly resigned. No big announcement, no drama, just turned in their pagers and stopped coming to meetings. The chief begged. The town council offered stipends. Nobody came back. Why? Because 12 of the 18 had been through divorce. 6 lost their houses. 4 are still paying child support on kids they're allowed to see 4 days a month. 2 got false restraining orders slapped on them by ex-wives who wanted full custody and didn't care how they got it. These aren't deadbeats. These are the guys who used to run into burning buildings for strangers. And one by one, they looked at the risk reward equation of modern life and said, nah, I'm good. Now the department is down to 7 old timers and 1 new kid who's only there because his dad was a legend. They can't legally respond to structure fires anymore. The county had to contract with a city 30 miles away. Response times tripled. Insurance rates are about to go through the roof. And the women who spent years telling those men they were toxic for wanting to grill and have a beer after putting out a barn fire are now the first ones screaming at town hall, asking why no one will save them when something bad happens. That story is playing out in 1,000 different versions all over the country. Little league teams folding because no dads will coach. Church men's groups that used to do all the heavy lifting on charity projects now empty. Rotary clubs, Elks lodges, Masonic temples. Membership collapsing because the guys who kept those places alive finally asked themselves, what exactly am I getting out of this besides a pat on the head and a casserole I don't even like? Even the military is feeling it. Recruiting numbers in the tank. The Pentagon is running ads that look like corporate diversity seminars because they can't figure out why young men aren't lining up to go die in the desert for a country that spent their entire childhood telling them they're the root of all evil. They actually had to lower standards, raise bonuses, and start accepting recruits with face tattoos and asthma because the pool of willing, capable men is drying up faster than California in July. And every time some talking head on cable news asks, what's wrong with young men today? The chat scrolls by with the same answer over and over. Nothing's wrong with us. We just stopped volunteering to be the villain in your story. That's the part that keeps them up at night. It's not that men are failing, it's that men are succeeding at something they were never supposed to be allowed to do. Walking away and thriving. And look at the numbers coming out now. Male happiness is up for the first time in decades, not just a little, significantly. Young men reporting the highest levels of life satisfaction since they started measuring it. Meanwhile, female happiness has been in free fall for 15 straight years, and the gap is widening every single quarter. Why? Because men finally stopped playing a game that was designed to make sure we lost. We stopped measuring our worth by how much we could provide to people who told us they didn't want what we were providing. We stopped letting our peace be held hostage by someone else's mood swings. We stopped treating female approval like oxygen. And the result? Men are sleeping better, lifting heavier, earning more, traveling farther, building stronger friendships with other men, developing skills, reading books, starting businesses, collecting experiences instead of regrets. Women, on the other hand, are discovering something nobody warned them about. Independence is awesome right up until the moment you realize nobody is coming to save you. And the state that promised to replace husbands with social programs is now broke, bloated, and backing away from the table with its hands up, going, sorry, we're all out of other people's money. Look at what's happening in the UK right now. Women's state pension age got raised to match men's because equality by status. Guess who's screaming the loudest about that one? The same generation that celebrated when men had to work until they dropped, while women retired at 60 with full benefits. Now that the bill came due, though, suddenly it's unfair and cruel and patriarchal, but the money's gone. The math doesn't care about your feelings. Same thing in Canada. Trudeau's government quietly admitted they can't afford the universal basic income pilot anymore. The one that was supposed to be the replacement for all those providers who were told to get lost. Turns out when you remove the incentive for men to work 60-hour weeks, the tax base collapses and the promises evaporate. And every time one of these programs gets cut, every time the money printer coughs and sputters, another 1,000 women wake up to the cold reality that the fantasy they were sold had an expiration date, and that date was yesterday. So now we're seeing the next phase, bargaining. This is the part where they try every trick in the book to get men to come back without actually giving up any of the power they took. Phase 1 was denial. We don't need men. Phase 2 was anger. Men are trash for abandoning us. Phase 3 was bargaining. Okay, fine. We'll be traditional wives. Just please protect us again. And the latest version of bargaining is the most insidious one yet. It's the feminism was just a test narrative. You've seen it. The videos where they say, we had to make sure you were strong enough to handle a strong woman. We were just testing you. You passed the test by walking away. Now come back and claim your prize. Let that sink in. They're trying to spin the biggest male exodus in history as some kind of elaborate loyalty test that we won. Like the last 20 years of hostility, divorce, theft, false accusations, and social shaming was just a big game of hard to get on a civilizational level. Gentlemen, if you ever needed proof that accountability is kryptonite to the modern woman, there it is. They would rather rewrite history itself than admit they were wrong and that actions have consequences. But the men who matter aren't buying it, not for 1 second, because we've all seen the receipts. We were there. We remember the articles, the TED Talks, the viral tweets, the laws, the court rulings, the college campuses where men were presumed guilty the second an accusation was made, the workplaces where one wrong joke could end your career, the dating market where the average man was treated like a walking ATM with defective personality. We didn't imagine it. It happened. And it happened with enthusiastic female support at every level. So, no, this wasn't a test. This was a choice. You chose. You won. Congratulations. Now live with it. And the beautiful part, men are. We're living better than we ever have. We're not sitting around plotting revenge. We're not crying in our beer. We're not starting movements to take anything back. We're just gone. Quietly, peacefully, profitably gone. We're the guys your ex warned you about. Except we're not bitter. We're the high value men who stopped making ourselves available to women who spent years telling us we weren't worth the effort. We're the protectors and providers who redirected all that energy into protecting and providing for ourselves and the small circle of people who actually earned a seat at our table. And the craziest part is how fast it's spreading. Every day another man wakes up, looks at the hamster wheel he's been running on, and just steps off. No announcement, no manifesto, just stops paying for dates with women who think dinner is an interview for how much he's willing to spend, stops arguing on the internet with strangers who hate him for existing, stops volunteering his time, money, and life force to systems that treat him like a utility. It's the quietest revolution in history, and it's unstoppable. Because once a man realizes that his peace is non negotiable, once he understands that his value doesn't come from how much he sacrifices for people who don't appreciate it, something shifts permanently. You can't unlearn that. You can't unfeel that freedom. And that's why all the crying, all the pleading, all the I'll be traditional now videos in the world aren't going to work. The men who walked away didn't leave because we were mad. We left because we got happy. And happy men don't negotiate with terrorists, even when the terrorists are wearing yoga pants and crying on TikTok. And now we're starting to see the next layer peel back, the one that almost nobody wants to talk about in public yet. Because once you say it out loud, the entire narrative collapses like a house of cards in a wind tunnel. The truth is, society never actually wanted equality. It wanted replacement, not equality of opportunity, not equality of accountability. Replacement. Men were supposed to step aside, shut up, pay the bills, and smile, while everything they built got handed over to people who kept saying they didn't need men to build anything. And for a long time, it worked. Men were too busy, too responsible, too conditioned to man up to notice they were being phased out. But here's the part nobody saw coming. Men are really, really good at stepping aside when you tell them to. Like world champion level good at it. You tell a man his presence is toxic, cool, he'll remove his presence. You tell a man his instincts are dangerous, cool, he'll suppress his instincts. You tell a man his money is the only thing he's good for, cool, he'll stop earning as much as he used to and see how that feels. And that's exactly what's been happening, slowly at first, then all at once. Look at male labor force participation. It's been dropping for decades, but in the last 5 years, it's fallen off a cliff in the 18 to 35 demographic. Not because men can't find jobs, because a lot of them stopped looking. They did the math. After taxes, after commute, after student loans, after the government takes its cut to fund lifestyles they're not allowed to be part of, a lot of guys realize they clear maybe $12 an hour to sit in a cubicle and get talked down to by people who hate them. And so they said no, they moved into vans. They learned to live on half what they used to make. They got jacked, grew beards, learned solar power and crypto. and how to fix diesel engines. They became digital nomads in Thailand or Mexico or Colombia, where their money stretches 10 times further, and nobody calls them toxic for opening a door for someone. And the system that spent years telling them they were worthless suddenly realized it still needed their taxes, their labor, their compliance, their bodies in uniform when things get spicy. Oops! That's when the panic really set in behind closed doors. Not the public panic, the private one, the one happening in government offices, corporate boardrooms, university faculty lounges, the one where people who spent their entire careers celebrating male obsolescence suddenly looked at the numbers and realized the machine only runs when men keep turning the crank. And the crank is starting to spin slower every single day. I want you to think about something that almost nobody is saying out loud yet. Every major infrastructure failure you're going to see in the next decade has already been baked in. The average age of a journeyman lineman in America right now is 52. The average age of a commercial nuclear operator is pushing 60. The guys who know how to keep the grid up, the water flowing, the refineries pumping, they're retiring, and the pipeline behind them is empty. Why? Because when those jobs were full of proud men making good money and going home to families who respected them, young guys lined up to take their place. But when the culture decided those same men were knuckle dragging cavemen who needed to be re educated about consent and privilege, the young guys looked at the deal and said, hard pass. Now, the same people who celebrated that decision are quietly begging trade schools to lower standards, offering forgiveness on student loans if you'll just please go learn how to weld pipeline in North Dakota in January. And the response from most young men? Crickets. Because those young men are busy. They're running crypto nodes out CEN out of shipping containers in Texas. They're building e-commerce brands that make six figures a month while they sleep. They're day trading meme stocks and lifting 4 plates in the gym and flying to Dubai to party with other guys who figured out the game is rigged and decided to stop playing it the way they were told to. They're not mad, they're not hiding, they're just elsewhere. And that's the part that's driving the narrative keepers absolutely insane. They expected anger, they expected protests, they expected men to beg to be let back in. They were ready for that. They had talking points prepared. What they weren't ready for was indifference. Calm, cheerful, muscular indifference. There's a clip going around right now of a woman on a podcast, tears in her eyes, saying, I just want a man who will love me unconditionally and provide for me and protect me and never leave. And the host asks, what do you bring to the table? She stares blankly for 5 full seconds and finally says, myself. The comment section destroyed her, but not with hate, with laughter. Thousands of guys just posting laughing emojis and we're good queen and enjoy your cats. No rage, no essays, just pure distilled, nah, I'm straight. Ma, not straight. That's the sound of a pendulum that didn't just swing back. It broke off the hinges and kept going, and because the men who walked away aren't coming back to save anyone. Not their ex-wives, not their former countries, not the women making tearful videos, not the corporations offering six-figure salaries. If they'll just please relocate to some dying city and work 80 hours a week to keep the lights on for people who hate them. Those men have new priorities now. And number one on that list is peace. Number two is growth. Number three is brotherhood. Everything else is negotiable. I want you to really let this next part sink in because it's the part that separates the men who get it from the ones who are still clinging to the old script. The strongest man in the world isn't the one who can lift the heaviest weight. It's the one who can walk away from a deal that no longer serves him without looking back. The one who can look at a lifetime of conditioning, be the provider, be the protector, be the rock, and quietly say, no, I think I'll pass, and then go build a life so good that nobody can offer him anything worth going back for. That's real power. Not the power to control others, the power to control yourself, the power to say no and mean it, the power to build something new instead of begging to be let back into something that tried to destroy you. And that power is spreading faster than anything I've ever seen in my life. Every day, another man wakes up and realizes he doesn't have to play by the old rules anymore. He doesn't have to get married to be complete. He doesn't have to have kids to be a real man. He doesn't have to stay in a job. He hates to impress people who don't care about him. He doesn't have to keep giving his time, money, and life force to systems and people who spend decades telling him he's the problem. He can just opt out quietly, legally, peacefully, and go build something better. That's what MWA really is. It's not a movement with leaders and t-shirts and rallies. It's a revelation, a personal declaration of independence that millions of men are making one by one in their own lives, in their own time. And once a man makes that declaration, there's no authority on earth that can force him back into line. You can't shame a man who's already made peace with being called immature. You can't guilt a man who's already accepted that some people will never understand his choices. You can't threaten a man who's already walked through the fire once and came out stronger on the other side. That's checkmate. And that's why all the crying, all the pleading, all the I'll wear an apron and bake cookies if you'll just marry me content is falling on deaf ears. The men who matter have already moved on to the next chapter, and that chapter is being written in gym logs, passport stamps, crypto wallets, brotherhood, and silence. The women who are just now realizing the party is over are standing in an empty room holding red cups, wondering why the music stopped. And the men who used to keep the music playing are already miles down the road, windows down, singing their own songs, building their own fires, living lives that no one gets to vote on anymore. And the most beautiful part, they're happy, genuinely, deeply, quietly happy. The kind of happy you can't fake, the kind that comes from knowing. You finally put yourself first after a lifetime of being told that was the worst thing you could do. That happiness is the ultimate revenge. Not because it hurts anyone else, but because it proves once and for all that everything they told us we needed to be fulfilled was a lie. We don't need their approval. We don't need their validation. We don't need their permission. We don't need their institutions. We just needed to get out of our own way. And now that we have, the game is over. And here we are, standing at the edge of something historic. This isn't just a moment, this is a turning point that people will study 100 years from now and say, that's when it changed. That's when men finally stopped asking for permission to live their own lives. Because what's happening right now isn't anger, it isn't bitterness, it isn't even really a reaction anymore. It's evolution. Quiet, deliberate, unstoppable male evolution. The men who walked away aren't looking for applause. They're not waiting for validation. They're not trying to prove anything to anyone. They've already proven the only thing that matters, that a man can live an extraordinary life without ever again letting someone else hold the remote control to his happiness. And every single day, more men join them, not because some YouTuber told them to, not because some forum convinced them, but because they looked around at the world they were born into, looked at the deal they were being offered, looked at the older men who took that deal and ended up broke, divorced, medicated, and alone. And they simply said, no, not me, not today, not ever. That's the moment everything changed. That's the moment the pendulum didn't just stop swinging, it shattered the entire clock. Because once enough men reach that moment, once the critical mass is hit, there's no going back. You can't unteach a man how good freedom feels. You can't unshow him how peaceful life is when nobody is screaming at him for existing. You can't unring the bell that says your peace is more valuable than their comfort. And that bell is ringing louder every single day. You see it in the comments. You see it in the private messages I get from guys in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s saying the same thing in different words. I finally get it. I'm done. I'm out. And I've never been happier. You see it in the way men talk to each other now. Not with bragging, not with chest thumping, just quiet nods. A look across the gym when one guy sees another putting in the work. A quick respect in a comment section. A shared glance between two strangers on a flight who both know exactly why the other one is traveling alone with a smile on his face. There's a new brotherhood forming, not the old kind built on duty and obligation and manning up. A new kind built on choice, built on mutual respect, built on the unspoken agreement that we protect our peace first, our brothers second, and everybody else to well, they had their chance. And that brotherhood is growing faster than any government, any corporation, any ideology can track. It's in the gyms at 5 a.m., it's in the jujitsu academies, it's in the crypto Discord servers, it's in the motorcycle clubs, it's in the quiet coffee shops where men sit alone with books and laptops and zero need to announce their presence to the world. It's everywhere now. And it's beautiful because these men aren't hiding from life. They're running toward it. They're climbing mountains. They're starting companies. They're learning languages. They're building bodies and bank accounts and legacies that no one will ever be able to take from them in a divorce settlement. They're proving every single day that everything we were told about what a man needs to be happy was a lie. You don't need a wife to be complete. You don't need kids to be fulfilled. You don't need a big house or a fancy title or a woman's approval to know your worth. All you need is the courage to walk away from anything that doesn't respect you. And once you do that, once you cross that line, the world opens up in ways nobody ever told you about. You wake up without an alarm because you actually slept. You eat food that fuels you because nobody's nagging you about what's in the fridge. And you spend your money on experiences that light you up instead of payments that keep someone else comfortable. You surround yourself with people who earn their place in your life instead of people who demand it because of what you used to be willing to give. That's not loneliness, that's liberation. And the craziest part, the more men live this way, the more other men see it and want it too. It's contagious. Freedom always is. That's why no amount of shaming, no amount of crying, no amount of but who will protect us is going to work. The men who matter have already seen behind the curtain. We've seen the script. We know how the movie ends. And we're not signing up for the sequel. We're writing a new story. One where the main character doesn't end up broken, and begging for scraps of affection at 55. One where peace isn't something you hope for after retirement. It's something you have right now today because you finally decided you're worth it. And that decision, once made, is permanent. So when women look around now and ask, where have all the good men gone? The answer is simple. We didn't go anywhere. We just stopped standing where you could reach us. We're still here, stronger than ever, happier than ever, calmer than ever, wealthier than ever, more focused, more grounded, more alive than we've ever been. We just moved to higher ground. And from up here, the view is incredible. The air is clean and the company is solid. The future is ours. And no one gets to come up here who didn't respect us when we were down in the mud building. Everything they're now realizing they can't live without. That's not cruelty, that's consequences. And consequences, my friends, are the greatest teacher humanity has ever had. So let them cry, let them beg, let them rewrite history and call it a test and promise to be traditional and post thirst traps with captions about submission. It doesn't matter. The men who walked away aren't coming back. Not because we hate anyone, not because we're hurt, not because we're broken, but because we're finally completely unapologetically free. And freedom, once tasted, is something you defend with your life. So this is where the story ends for the old world. And this is where the new one begins. A world built by men, for men, with standards, boundaries, brotherhood, and peace at the center. A world where a man's value is no longer measured by how much he's willing to suffer, but by how much he's willing to live. That's the legacy of men walking away. That's the future we're building. One lifted weight, one stacked Satoshi, one quiet morning, one unbreakable boundary at a time. And nothing, no tears, no guilt trips, no promises, no threats. Nothing is going to stop it because all roads lead to MWA. They always did. We just finally decided to start walking. So that's the full picture. That's the truth They don't want you to see. That's the reality that's unfolding right now in real time all around the world. Now, I want to hear from you. What did you think about all this? Do you agree? Do you see it playing out in your own life, in the lives of men around you? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's get this conversation going because the more we talk about this openly, the faster the message spreads. And if this one hits you hard, do me a favor. Like the video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you really want to help the channel grow, share this video with every man you know who needs to hear this right now. Just remember, all roads lead to MWA, men walking away. And cheers.
Nothing says you care like crypto. Nothing can compare. Nothing says you care like crypto. Oh, nothing can compare to crypto.